Hello everyone. Thank you for checking out today's video. I would really appreciate it if you could leave a like and subscribe. Let's get started. What unsolved mystery has absolutely no plausible explanation? Came home from work with a 12-pack of drinks. I was walking up to my door when I dropped said 12-pack. A bunch of cans roll out of one end, so I stopped to pick them up and put them back in the box. But there are 13. No matter what, one of the cans won't fit, and they were all clean. No chance of a soda just being left outside. I count 13 cans when I get inside. No idea how that happened. In another universe you drop your 12-pack and can only find 11. About 2 years ago my sister was home alone while my mum was at work and I was at school. I finished early that day and was home at around 1 PM. I was talking to my sister and she casually mentioned my mum came home for a while. Right away I thought that was odd because my mum works a few towns over, and even if she came home on her lunch break she'd have to leave to go back by the time she got here. But I thought maybe she had an appointment or something, so I asked my sister if she said anything. Here is what my sister says happened. She was upstairs in her room when she heard the front door unlock, so she walked over to the stairs to see who it was. The stairs were facing the front door, so you could see it from the top of the stairs, and saw my mum taking her coat off and hanging it up. She looked over at my sister without saying anything, after which my sister was just like, oh okay, it's just mum, and went back to her room. She also didn't hear her leave. When she told me this I was pretty spooked because my mum wouldn't have not said a word. She'd say hi at the very least. I proceeded to call my mum to ask her if she'd been home recently just to make sure, and just like I thought, she hadn't been home since she left that morning. We still don't know who or what my sister saw, but I was afraid of being home alone for the next 2 weeks lol. Maybe a lookalike intruder who decided to GTFO after such a power move from your sister, just checking her and going back to bussiness. This whole doppelganger thing freaks me out properly. I read so many of them and no one ever gets hurt or anything, but something about it just rubs me the wrong way. And the doppelgangers never speak. Did you guys notice that? My sister lost her car key and it turned up buried in my grandmother's garden. She lives 2 hours away and we see her 2 to 3 times a year. Edit. Answers to commonly asked questions. No dogs involved. My grandmother loves to garden, so found it while gardening somehow. My grandmother never had a copy of the key. We rarely visited her, and my dad spent half the year overseas. Our only relative / person that we have contact with who also has contact with her. The most likely prankster wasn't around when my sister lost the key originally. There were 2 sets of the key, but I held one until my sister lost hers, at which point I gave her mine. My only semi-plausible explanation is that my sister thought she lost the key, visited our grandma a few weeks later and actually lost the key somehow, fell out of her bag / car something, and then it turned up later. I have no idea how that would have happened though. That'll show those little fuckers for not visiting me more often, or alternatively those little fuckers always showing up. See how far they get without keys. Or those little fuckers would have an easier time if they had a spare set of keys. I'll plant a key bush for them. In Australia 2008, an olive grove of 400 trees was stripped of every single olive overnight by hand. The owner, who lives on the grove BTW, says it usually would take a team of 6 a full 3 days to harvest the grove. He heard nothing overnight, no machinery, and found not a single olive on a tree nor the ground the next day. None. I can't imagine the size of a team of silent thieves picking and hauling 4 tons of olives in a single night. The owner says he knows of 5 other similar raids in the area accumulating and 7.5 tons being heisted at a value of $10,000. The numbers here are just confounding. The number of people it would take to do the work, not get caught, and for such a comparative measly payoff. I got this. 18 men did it. It was overpass. Call it 6 hours. Average work day is 8 hours. They'd need 33% more people. Make it 24 men, 25 for good measure. Or 20 good men. Ah, the infamous Sir 20 good men. I had a wristwatch that my dad bought me back in the 90s. It was one of those kinetic watches that would wind itself when you walk etc. Anyway, for some reason it kept stopping at around 1:30 am, never 1:30 in the afternoon. Sometimes it would keep going, but 3 times out of 5 it would stop at the exact time. We sent it to the Swatch company to get repaired, and a month or two later we got a catalog of watches with a handwritten note basically saying we don't know what the hell is wrong with your watch. We are stumped. Pick a watch out of this catalog and have it as a replacement. So that's my possessed watch story. I was waiting for you to say, then one day your dad died at 1:30 am. I'm glad your dad didn't die at 1:30 am. I thought he was going to get a bunch of new watches that all stopped at 1:30. World being creepy as fuck. But nope lol. I had one of those incredible Hulk face ice creams you get from the ice cream truck. I took a bite and watched as the rest of it fell off the stick, only to look down and see nothing on the ground. I still don't know what happened to my ice cream. I want my money back. Edit. Didn't expect this to get so much attention. I love you all, but replying to all comments would take me years. Cool to see others having similar experiences. I read a similar story on Reddit. Dude was drinking coffee from a mug, dropped it. No sound from it landing. Never found the mug. Maybe all the particles lined up just right and it fell through the floor. Makes me wonder if this ever happened to a person. This happened a few years ago to my brother and my mom. It was parent-teacher conference at my brother's high school, literally the largest high school in the US with about 6,000 students, and after waiting forever to finally meet with the teacher they walk in and sit down. The teacher then says that our father was just in there right before them, and my mom was shocked and told him that there was no way. The teacher insists that he just walked out and gives his name and a perfect description of my father. Very tall man with a lot of freckles, brown hair and a thick mustache, and summarizes their meeting. My mom then informs him that my father has been dead for over 10 years and is in disbelief. The teacher had absolutely no background of our family and no way of knowing this, is shocked himself. To this day we have no idea what happened that day. He faked his death, but still wanted to check in on his kids from time to time. That is just as unsettling as the idea of a ghost, if not more so. I was given a potato in school, cannot for the life of me remember why, and I was having a weirdly good time playing with it. I went into my room and started throwing it up in the air and catching it, but one time I threw it up it just seemed to inexplicably curve backwards over my head. I heard it thump on the ground, but when I turned around to pick it up it was gone. I spent 10 minutes looking everywhere for it and it just wasn't there. When we moved house a year later and I was emptying my room, I fully expected to find a gross, rotting potato somewhere, but still, it was nowhere to be found. I asked my parents and even my sister if they'd found and got rid of a potato in my room. Nobody had any idea about it. I'm going to spend the rest of my life wondering where the hell that potato went. If it was there, you would have smelled it. Exactly, that suggests it just vanished instantly, which makes it stranger. Imop's long lost dog. The potato was delicious. I went to visit my mom's house to go say goodbye to my dog before my mom was going to take him to get put to sleep since he was really sick. I didn't want that to happen yet, so I was arguing with her about it for a while. At one point my dog wanders off and I don't see him for a while. I couldn't find him. Figured he was out chillin' in the horse pasture as he was wont to do. It was dark and he wasn't coming when I called. I just thought he was doing his thing. I was sad I couldn't say one last goodbye, but I had to get going. I walked to the front of the house where I was parked, and the little asshole was in my car, sitting in the driver's seat looking at me with that stupid look he always got on his face when it was time for a car ride. I started crying right then. I'm crying right now. My windows were all the way up, my doors were locked, I had the only key. To this day I have no earthly idea how the fuck he got in there. God, I miss that fucking dog. R.I.P. Barky. I was late for an appointment one day and was speeding up a hill with a big curve to the right, the direction I was going. Almost as soon as I got around the curve I saw there was an accident in front of me, blocking both lanes on my side. Since there were only 1 or 2 other cars stuck behind it, it must have just happened because there were no emergency vehicles there yet. To the right of me was a sidewalk where people were standing gawking, and to my left was oncoming traffic in the other two lanes, so I couldn't go around it, and I was going too fast to be able to stop in time. I knew if I relaxed I was less likely to be as severely injured, so I quickly shut my eyes and relaxed as much as I could. And absolutely nothing happened. When I opened my eyes, I could see the crash behind me in my rearview mirror, and I was continuing along an empty, on my side, road. This happened about 35 years ago, and to this day I have no idea how that happened. That's seriously freaky. I've heard other similar stories like this, and it boggles my mind.